Okay, special thank you to Nachman Fried and from Zeitlin and everyone else involved in being Masada the Shiur, and especially also to Breslov Research Institute, my Rabbi Chaim Kramer. And if I, with your permission, make it Leilu Nishmas Yocheved Bas Tzipora and Refuah Shlema for Dvorah Bat Yocheved. We learned last week the fact that Mara Shchera and Atzvus, these are the main causes of why my simcha is sabotaged. And why is it so difficult? Because Rav Nachman points out I have to be miskaber, I have to really, really work hard. I have to be a gibber, I have to really, really overcome the fact that we're living in Olam Hazeh constantly. Until we niftar, potter from this world, we're in this world. And because of that, we're going to be constantly hit with pigayim, which are interfacing, and constant interfacing with people and situations that is going to steal my mind from the simcha, and is going to easily become a slippery slope into the things that are not going right in my life. Then the other item that Rav Nachman pointed out is Mikre Hazman. So Pigay Mikre Hazman. Mikre we pointed out, we translate as happened, and it was an accident, or it occurred, or by chance. But actually in Lashon HaKodesh, Mikra is a two-letter root which comes from Kuf Reish, which means it's called out. And Ein Mikra El HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we looked at that last week as well. So that essentially everything that's happening to us is happening for us through HaKadosh Baruch Hu, talking to us through whatever we're actually experiencing. And the word Zman, as we know, it refers to time, but within time we're constantly being prepared and invited to hear Hashem speaking to us. So we looked at this and we realized those are the sabotagers, Mara Shchar and Atzvus, which are caused through me interfacing with other people, and instead of looking at Rebbeinu Shalom, please help me, see that you're here inviting me to change the only person you created me to actually change, I get sucked into what it is that I'm focusing on. That's the Mara, the bitter tasting part of it, the Shchara, the black dot out of the one black dot in the middle of the ocean of white, and then that brings me into Atzvus Has V'Shalom, and this is happening because I'm in Olam Hazeh. There's no escaping this. So we've got two opposites here. I'm in Olam Hazeh, constantly interfacing with people and situations, and there's always something that's not great about that can easily pull me and get my attention. And then the opposite side of that is Tamid. So Tamid means there's no room for anything else except to be B'Simcha. So this seems to be the dichotomy that Rav Nachman is helping us realize, that the opening line is Be B'Simcha Tamid, live inside Liyos B'Simcha, exist inside Simcha Tamid constantly. And now it's helping us understand why there is such a battle. It's a constant struggle. But the word Tamid really means that the default ought to be the Simcha, not the Atzvus. We've already covered, I'm going to touch on it now, and then we're going to go into, there's two things I want to look at today. Number one is where Rav Nachman points out that all illness, bar none, because he says kol chalais, every single illness is from a kilkul of simcha. Something is wrong in my simcha that's causing. And then he explained there is a connection. And that connection is song that affects my heartbeat, the pulse, and with that affects my physical health or lack of. And because we've got this indivorceable, you cannot divorce my mind from my body. So my mind affects my body because it's one unit. They are separate entities that will be separated at death and then reunited at Tchias HaMesim. But in the meantime, the fact that we are alive means the mind and the body are working together. The emotions we explained really is contained in the word leiv. So the word leiv primarily means mind, and the moment you think it, you feel it. So emotions are not really a separate entity. So the moment you think something, you feel it in your heart is what then sends out the pulse to all the entire body, and the body is affected by what I'm thinking. So I want to touch on that from Makoros in Tanakh, Chazal, and also from Rambam as a chizuk, because Rav Nachman is really helping us understand that happiness is the inoculator. It's a vaccine, to use sorry, I don't like using nivel pear, but so Simcha is really the vaccine that actually can inoculate us to become immune to Atzvus. And that the moment Atzvus has entry, we know that that's only because of my kilkul in Simcha. So Simcha is actually not only the immune system, literally, but it's also the refuah if Atzvus gets in. So we're going to look at that now, and then we're going to look at so then when I get hit with the Atzvus thoughts, and I get hit with Daiga, and I get hit with Mara Shchera, with paying attention to the bitter taste in what I'm exposed to in my life, and I'm also paying attention to the black dot that's surrounded by all the white. So now what do I do? So we're going to look at those two items. So on yes.
You asked me to share this once. I think
please.
I'll try to.
Yeah, say it nice and loud for the microphones to pick up.
14 years ago, I was in the hospital for 65 days. I died 3 times, and they weren't able to diagnose my problem, etc.
Wow.
I won't go into details about that.
Okay.
But I hadn't slept for approximately a month. I couldn't breathe hardly without help. I could hardly move. But my mind worked quite well. And one day, not a nurse assigned to me, but I think she was in rehab department. She used to walk by my room back and forth. She said, "I've noticed you for the last period of time, and I think I want to share something with you. I think you'll be able to hear this." She said, "The only way you're going to get out of here, and the only way you're going to get healed, is you have to make yourself happy." And she said, the way to do that, I know you're Jewish, so you won't be able to imagine your God because you can't picture your God, but you could picture a person who's happy, and look at that person in your mind and see them smiling at you, and you smile back, and you do this as much as you can during the day, and you will find that you'll start to get better. And of course I tried to do just what she said, and it was one of the major turning points that I got out of there, or else I wouldn't even be here. But, so what you're saying, actually,
you experienced.
I experienced 100%.
And how many years ago? 14?
It was about 14 years ago.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot to be said on this subject. Sometimes we need reminders. It's just basically helping us understand you cannot divorce the mind from the body. So I'm going to quote a few psukim from Mishlei and Koheles, and then I'm going to jump into Rambam a little bit, where you'll see the mind-body connection even stronger. So it says Mishlei, Perek Tesvav, Pasuk Yud Gimel, 15:13. Leiv sameach yetiv panim. A happy mind, and I'm translating the word leiv as mind. It does mean heart as well, but only first starts in the mind. A leiv sameach, happy mind, yetiv panim, actually improves one's panim, the facial expressions. And that fits in perfectly with what Dr. Rabbi, remind me your name.
Reb Shmuel Rosenberg.
Reb Shmuel Rosenberg, thank you. That fits perfectly in what you're saying, that actually your facial expressions are affected by what you're saying inside your mind. If you find a particular joke funny, your body responds to that because your mind is saying that's funny, and your body physically responds in real time. Panim has 2 meanings. It means panim and it means pnim. So you can also read it as leiv sameach, a happy mind, yetiv pnim, will actually improve your insides. And that's literal, because that's what Rav Nachman is saying. He's telling us that the pulse rate affects your physical health. And so when the mind is focusing on what's good in life, Hashem's chesed, His love, then that is going to actually physically, in real time, immediately change the configuration of ourselves. Rashi points out on this pasuk, Im tismach libo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu belechtecha b'drochav. If you give simcha to Hashem by going in His ways, yetiv lecha panav lasos kol retzonecha. Hashem will improve His panav, which literally translates as faces, which we know means His hashgacha, because Hashem's always hiding facially, so to speak, behind everything that you and I call nature. Is really Hashem hiding behind everything that's happening in our world. And it's also referring to His Shekhinah. Rav Nachman in Samach Gimel, in the first chelik, he says Panav is Panim is Lashon Ratzon Hashkachas Hashem. So Hashem's Ratzon is what He's really looking at us, and so what Rashi is telling us is Hashem will improve His hashgacha over us. We get a better muzzle because we're being happy. So our happiness affects Hashem's way of interfacing with us. Last is kol retzonecha, and will do all what you want. So happiness has tremendous repercussions. Rabbeinu Yonah on the same pasuk, Leiv Sameach Yetiv Panim, Nilmoid Mizeh. We learn from here, this is a Rishon, Rabbeinu Yonah. Shelo ya'aleh al hadas, don't let it ever go up on your mind, she'ein to'eles v'hefset al machshavas halev. Don't ever think that what you're thinking inside your mind has no repercussions. Don't let it go on your mind, she'ein to'eles v'hefset. There's no pluses or minuses what you're thinking, it's just thought. Ki'im b'dvarim u'b'vel, only when you speak and you do an actual action, that is what affects your world. Now Shlomo Melech is giving you a proof from this pasuk. Ki yesh pa'il b'guf, your body is effective. Ki ikar hanas haguf v'tza'arei tluyin b'leiv. The main source of a person's both happiness of pleasure and pain is taking place in the mind. Ki mesimchas halev yagia ikar tanug haguf. The main tanug, the pleasure you physically have, is actually what's going on inside your mind. I think I gave the mashal, if someone's, let's say, watching a movie and they're eating a pack of crisps, or what do you call them in America? Popcorn, potato chips, peanuts, and before he knows it, where? And his mind is so much on the movie, he's not paying attention to the eating. So actually, there is a moment that he's enjoying the taste and putting his hand back in, but actually the amount that he's enjoying has been diminished because his mind is elsewhere. So he doesn't even realize, oh my gosh, and he's putting away, and maybe if it's not healthy, he's losing out on so many things. The ikar tanug and sar, the main happiness, or pleasure rather, and sar and pain that the body experiences is because of what's going on over here, is what's going on in my mind. Ki leiv sameach yetiv geha. So he quotes a different pasuk, which we're going to look at. That leiv sameach, happy mind, yetiv geha, actually is a good healer. Geha means a healer. I think I shared this with you that I've suffered many setbacks in my life, and most of them never happened. I suffered because I was expecting terror, but most of them never happened. But I suffered from all the daig and the pach and the worries. Koheles, Perak Hey, Pasuk Hey, 5:5. Koheles, Al titenet picha, don't let your mouth lahachti et b'sarecha, to be a mistake for your body. Meaning, the body is going to get hurt by what's coming out my mouth. That's the simple. Others say it's going on all my family members. B'sarecha, those who come from me, my children, wife and children, they're going to be hurt by what comes out my mouth. But also what I say about me, my life, life is a battle, marriage is a war. Whatever adjectives I give that are not good to what I experience, my body is listening to that. Every cell in my entire body is listening to everything that goes on inside my mind.
Even if you would say something casually or in a joking way?
So it's brought in many Sfarim. Rav Nachman talks about this many times actually, that there's no such thing as a thought that goes lost. That means every single thing we do, say, and think has repercussions. So that includes a casual conversation. So it's not has v'shalom for me to now get down or feel guilty. On the contrary, moving forward, the more basimcha we can find in what we been through and are going through, what ends up happening is that teshuva b'simcha me'ava will be mahapech avoinus, which is one of the worst type of averas, as when a person does it, not lachis, that's a pesha, but avoinus is really bad because it's lemezid, and that changes it to a schus. But the answer is yes. The smallest casual conversation also has an effect, but we can turn it around too. Like Rosenberg pointed out right at the beginning that he was 65 days in hospital, but when the nurse gave him a different perspective of how to look at it, his mind switched to happy thoughts, and from that there was a turnaround. So we can turn ourselves around. Mishlei Perak Yudalet Pasuk Lamed. This is a very famous pasuk. Chaye Besarim Leiv Marpeh. That part is not as famous as the next part. Chaye Besarim, cure for your limbs. Besarim, the Mefarshim on that pasuk explain, is referring to all the limbs of your body. Leiv Marpeh. Your mind is a doctor. It's actually a cure. Marpeh means the cure, the medicine. Your mind is the medicine for the limbs of your body. Urkav, this is the famous part. Urkavat samais kina. And jealousy rots the bones. And that's a phenomenal statement. This is Shlomo Melech. He didn't take a statistical analysis of popular opinion. What do you think are the downside of jealousy? And jealousy is a thought. It starts over here. Sefer Charedim, when he lists all the mitzvahs shetali belev, that mitzvahs depend on what we're thinking, he lists jealousy under that list. So, points out Rashi. I'm going to share with you actually the Masudas first of all. He talks about kina. I've mentioned this before. Inyan kas. The Masudas Siyan, he'll give you definitions of terminology throughout Tanakh. So he points out that kina is actually in the category of kas, because I'm angry that I don't have what Yenim has, or I just don't have it, and so I become jealous of when I see someone does have that, whether it's children, or well-behaved children, or this guy is married, or I'm jealous because this guy's divorced, or I'm jealous that this guy has got all his kids out of the house, I still got them in the house, and this guy is jealous because other people have got kids and he hasn't been blessed with kids yet. It doesn't make a difference what it is. Jealousy and anger are basically two sides of the same coin. So comes along Rashi, Adam Baal Chema. If I'm easily angry, I'm married to anger. Baal I'm the husband of anger. Rekavain atzames hulakol. It becomes the rotting of my bones for everybody. There are no exceptions. Anger and jealousy is really bad for the body. Now Rabbeinu Yonah on this pasuk, he points out something quite extraordinary. He says, Raiv harafuas pu'ulais l'mixas ha'evarim. The vast majority of medicines are able to affect some of your limbs. V'nezek l'mixasam, and also will have side effects that are not good for other parts of the body. V'leiv hasavlanos, but a mind that is soivel, endures. It will just take the stuff with patience and endures it and can carry a lot. It's got a very high threshold for pain. It doesn't get upset and easily frustrated. It's got a very high threshold for pain. Leiv hasavlanos chaye kol ha'evarim. It gives life to all limbs of the entire body. V'nikra leiv hasavlan leiv marpeh. So in the lashon of Shlomo Melech, who's Hacham V'Kol Adam, this is Ruach HaKodesh. He's telling us how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man's body and mind. They work together. You cannot separate the two. You go to a doctor, find someone who's going to care about what's going on inside your life, because it's just not enough to address the physical ailments. Because very often, not always, but extremely often, it's my stress. And it's my overwhelm. And the stuff that's going on in my life. Life insurance companies actually want to know how many times you've moved house in the last 3 years. Because one of the highest rates of suicide is correlated to moving house. It is so stressful. It is so stressful that people at some point might actually prefer, I'm out of here, literally. So stress is a very serious problem. And a doctor who doesn't know how to ask, you know what, this particular ailment that you're complaining about It might be related to stress in your life. I'm not prying, I'm just asking what's going on that might be feeding this particular ailment. Because it can be lack of sleep, it could be stress from a divorce, chas v'shalom, or a difficult kid, or a health setback in some other area of the body, a financial setback, just lost my job. I tried being an Uber driver, but I got fired after the first day because apparently all the customers didn't appreciate that I went the extra mile. I once gave up my seat for a blind man, and that's how I lost my job as a bus driver. So I couldn't resist that one. So comes along Rabbi Tinyana and tells us that Nikra Lev Hasavan Lev Marpeh. The mind is a cure. Your mind is a doctor that actually gives out. Your mind is a pharmacy that gives out medicine to all parts of your body. And laughter and smiling, dancing, clapping, paying attention to the chesed that Hashem does constantly in our lives is actually a cure. It's a cure-all. Because simcha is the vaccine against atzvus, and it's also the medicine for atzvus. So he says, when a person's got savlanus, he will endure, he's extremely patient. It's good for his body, it's good for his nefesh, because it takes him away out of kas and yagon. Yagon is agony. It's taking place over here. Or we did that, sorry. When you get rid of anger, it takes any of the germs that are taking place inside the body, it actually eradicates them. And this is a very powerful, it's so ridiculously powerful because everybody has some sort of an ailment in their lives. I know from one prominent rabbi, and I didn't get permission to say his name, but he's got 2 Talmidim who followed the Rambam, and they haven't got ill in 11 years since they followed the Rambam. I've been following Rambam for even longer than that, about 28 years, I think, or maybe dropped more. But I've been ill a few times, and every single one I can guarantee exactly where it came from in terms of stress that brought down my immune system. And then I got pneumonia. I got bronchitis 3 times, pneumonia twice. The second time I got pneumonia, I did not fully recover. It was such a hit that my physical metabolism never got back to the original energy. This is a very, very simply true axiom. There's no way to get away from it. Our body and our mind work together. They are partners. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, Ein tzarich loimer, you do not need to say, Ki meshemen b'saroi yarzeh min hakina. The pasuk is telling you that kina is so bad, it rots the bones. The bones is the hardest part of your body. Even the Nazis, when they pulled out from the ovens, the gas ovens, after Jews being burnt, the skeleton was there. And that was 2,000 degrees, something crazy. For the bones to rot, something has to be really strong. Yeah, jealousy is more powerful than anything. And he points out, you don't have to say that before it even gets to the bones, body fat, shuman, the body fat will start to atrophy and will actually soften and weaken. And one feels it on the body itself. And that's before it gets to the bones. So
the problem is that a person is the least conscious about this jealousy.
Yes.
They never admit to it. When you ask a person, are you jealous? You always
right.
He will deny it. Not only to you, he will deny it
to himself. So I think that's what Rav Nachman is trying to help us understand, that the mitzvah G'day Leis B'Simcha is not a script. It's an awareness that happiness is a reality. That means Hashem has given me all the reasons in every part of my life, including right now, to be extremely happy and consistently and constantly. And that the sabotagers, which are Mara Shchera, paying attention to the bitter taste in whatever is going on around me, and the black spots when there's tons of white, that's going to pull me down into atzvus, and I've got to be miskaber over that in order to be able to take the battles of Pikei and Mikrei Hazman. So all this is not just a script. They are beautiful words, and it's amazing just to read the Torah on the surface. But I think you'll bring out an extremely important point. It's the awareness that God gave us the power to plug into the happiness that He already puts in the Bria and in our lives, and to unplug the Atzvos, the Marash Chora, which are actually self-induced thoughts. And the emotion that we create from depression, anxiety, worry, fear, all those emotions are actually self-induced thoughts that lead Hashem to the body starting to break down. And so all of that starts with awareness. All starts with how aware am I that I get myself drawn into complaining. That's a biggie. How aware am I of how much I'm complaining about what's going on in my life, with my wife, with my husband, with my children, with my grandchildren, with my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. So it all really comes down to: am I aware how jealousy eats me up, or resentment? That's a huge one. Or anger. He's putting anger and jealousy as basically one feeds the other. So that's 100% true. So it says, the mind is able to be chaye besarim, a cure for all ailments in the body, and at the same time, it has the power to rot my bones. So in other words, my whole physical health depends on what's going on inside my mind, between my ears. So there's more to say on that. I'm going to move on to the next makar. Basically, as Chazal say, a kina taivan covered motzin es adam na'olam. You don't have to look at it as esoterically that a person loses olam haba because he's stuck in kina taiva uncovered. No, it's actually taking me out while I'm alive. It's taking me out of this world, because my life, let's say up to 120 years, is not how many years we live, as we mentioned last week. It's how many hours, minutes, seconds in the day my mind is actually plugged into God. Am I paying attention that you're in my life, and that whatever's going on in my marriage is really you surfacing in my marriage? Whatever's going at work is you surfacing through these clients. And everything is just testing, where's my mind going to be? In all your ways, acknowledge Hashem. That's the pasuk in Mishlei. We'll look at it. I don't think it'll be today. Parak Gimel pasuk Vav. Again, don't be impressed with Makaras. It's mostly gimmicks. Trying to remember the name. What do you call it when you have ways to trigger off the simonim in English? Sorry, Ramazim, simonim. There's a word in English I've forgotten. So whatever. So don't be impressed. It's all just simonim. So essentially, atzvus is an invitation for illness, and simcha is an invitation to be immune from illness, and it's also the cure for being ba'atzvus. We quoted Louis Pasteur: "The germ is nothing. Do not be afraid of the germ. He's the one who discovered it. Don't be afraid of the germ. The germ is nothing. The terrain is everything. Your body is everything. A person's got a strong immune system does not have to worry about the germ. Oh, lowering the immune system from stress and worry, anxiety, that is going to create the opening for the germs to enter." Mishlei, Perek Tesvav, Pasuk Tesvav, I think we did talk about this. Kol yimei ha'ani ra'im, all the days of the poor man. It's not poverty. It's not poverty of finances, it's poverty of the mind. How do we know? Kol yimei ha'ani, the poor man, all his days are bad. V'tov leiv mishtatamid, a good mind is at a constant banquet. So you see from the second part of the same pasuk, Shlomo Melech is not talking about financial poverty. That's not the worst poverty by far. The worst poverty is Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. A Toiv Ra means I'm always focusing on what's not good. So even if I got a lot of money, I'm not going to enjoy it. We mentioned Howard Hughes. He died $2.1 billion. And in the last day entry on his diary, he wrote, "I never remember a day in my life that I awoke and said, I'm happy today." He had 2.1 billion reasons to be happy, but if he wasn't counting them, he was still busy. He was completely paranoid about his personal physical hygiene and safety. He was constantly firing his bodyguards, because the poor guy became neurotic and paranoid because he was one of the few billionaires at the time. This is going back 40 years ago, and most of us are not old enough to realize that billionaires are a fairly recent phenomena, and multi-billionaires even more so. But it used to be that you were impressed by someone who was a millionaire and then multi-millionaire. That was even more rare. But a person can have everything and still have nothing, and that's what Shlomo Melech is warning me. Happiness is a state of mind. Leiv Tov Mishta Tamid. He can be at a constant banquet, and it doesn't make a difference. Rabbi Victor Miller once gave an explanation on this pasuk. Imagine that you're at a beautiful party, and it's your favorite company. Everyone's enjoying each other's conversation. The music is your favorite music. All your favorite food is there. Everything's right. You're wearing your best jacket and clothes. It's just a beautiful evening. And then you say l'chaim on a glass of your favorite wine, and the wine glass cracks. I just knocked it a bit too hard, and it cut my finger. I'm going to live. I'm not dying. Barely need even a Band-Aid, but it's throbbing. It hurts a bit. So says Rabbi Victor Miller, I'm at this beautiful party, and my mind could get kidnapped by this cut, and especially if one of the drops of blood falls on my outfit, whatever. So a person can actually let his mind get totally taken hostage, and meanwhile, my favorite music, favorite friends, favorite conversation, and my mind goes to the cut. Or I'm enjoying the party so much that the pain and this small cut is drowned by all the simcha around me. So he gave that mashal to explain this pasuk. V'toiv leiv mishte tamid. He's at a constant party, a constant banquet. Life is good. It was good. It is good. It's gonna get even better. Life is extremely good, and that's not my opinion. It's God's opinion. God said so right after He created man on the sixth day, and Adam already ate from the tree. He was judged and thrown out of Gan Eden. And seconds later, Hashem gave the final report. V'hinei tov ma'od. This world is exceedingly good. Exceedingly. The Rokeach was a huge Mekubal and a Rishon. He wrote on that, I think I quoted it once, that Hinei tov ma'od is going on everything into the future. Because Hashem said in the Pasuk, V'ayar Hashem saw et kol asher asa. Everything He made, so says the Rokeach, everything kol asher asa goes on now and into the future. Everything that will ever be, v'hinei. Hinei is a special language. When Hashem says hinei, which means pay attention, every oath and word requires my attention. But when Hashem goes out of His way, imagine the author of the book, he now puts in parentheses, the next sentence I'm about to write, please pay extra attention. So you wouldn't be writing if you didn't want me to pay attention. No, so when Hashem goes out of His way and He says hinei, pay attention, pay special attention, you know something big is coming. That's what Chazal tell us the word hinei actually means. V'hinei tov ma'od. The world is exceedingly good. And in the context of Adam being thrown out of Gan Eden and setting the whole tachlis of the Bria back almost now 5,780, almost 6,000 years. He messed up big time. And Hashem saying, no, I want you to know, I am so brilliant, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu. I can bring perfection to the world with no matter how many mistakes man makes. My hashgacha is such that even with your bechira, even with messing up, I can still bring about a perfect world. And so therefore, Rav Nachman tells us, I think it's in Reish Lamed Tes in Sichas Haran, the mashal Rav Nosson gives is when you have a beautiful new suit, you really enjoy it, it's lovely. But after a few months or years, and it gets worn and a bit torn here and there, it hasn't got chashivas. So it says, but that's not how it works with my world, says Hashem. This is called Olam HaTikun. It's getting better all the time. And in every generation, there have been greater and greater tzaddikim. You had Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech, you had the Rashbi, the Baal Shem Tov, Rav Nachman, you've got all the tzaddikim that are bringing about, so the further we get into the history of mankind, it's actually getting better. We keep talking about Yeridas Adoros, but no, don't go there. Get stuck on Hashem is getting closer to the final end of the race. We're so near the end. Hold on tight. So it says, yeah.
There's an expression I hear, I don't know if it comes from the Rebbe, that the Eibishter feed the Welt Shannon and Shannon. I don't know what that refers to, but maybe it's like
Right.
what you're saying now. That is
Right, so
running the world nice.
I'm not so good with the Yiddish, but I don't remember that being the Yiddish term in that Sikha, but it could be his, I think I vaguely recall that because it could be as from
Also,
the
the
Bein Zal.
Rebbe said that the whole world is saying that Yerid Sadoris.
Yeah.
I only see that the world's getting better. Akshadura or something, whatever.
So that is in Shin Ches, right at the end of Sikha Suran, he talks about not falling into the trap, which even Shlomo Melech already warned us of saying, "Oh, do you remember the good old days? Don't go there." Don't. Thank you. Say it slowly and loud. Al Toimer. Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. Al Toimer shehayamim rishonim hayu tovim me'ela ki loim hachma she'alta al zeh. Excellent. Perfect.
What does that mean?
It means the following. Don't say, this is Shlomo Melech, don't say, Shahayamim Rishonim Hayu Tovim Ele. Oh, those are good old days, everything was much cheaper, people had more respect for each other, children were more respectful for their parents. Don't go there. Ki loy mahachma she'alta al zeh. You're not asking a smart question. You look at the Mefarshim on that pasuk in Koheles. Where's the pasuk? Koheles Zion, Perek Zion pasuk Yud. So it says there, only the Ksil talks that way. The Hacham knows that Hashem is improving the world all the time. So that's I think one of the longest Sikhas in Sikha Saran. It's right the very last one, Shin Ches, and it's so worthwhile looking at it because it really puts everything into perspective. But in response to what you said about Shena, I think it is actually there. Reish Lamates, I think it is. I remember at Reish Lamates, I think Ra-la-ta. So it sounds like reality. So I think of reality that in the real picture that Hashem paints for us through his Tzadikim Amitim, in this case of Rabbeinu Zal, Rav Nachman, the reality is the world, life is really good. So in Reish Lamates, so I don't see the Yiddish version. No, I don't see it there, but I think I remember something like that. It says, after you've had a malbush for a certain time, it was brand new. The older the garment gets, the less value it has to you. At the beginning, it was a real mess because we had Adam Rishon. But by Hashem, it's getting better and better. Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu. The world's getting more and more repaired. Like Rabbi Victor Miller used to say, we're all in the hospital. We're all ill, and we're all to get better. And but according to this, we're here to be repaired, which means we're all on one big construction site, and we're all builders. We're all fixing Hashem's perfect world. It's getting better. Hold on tight. Mashiach's coming, and then the final tikkun will be there. So while it's getting better, hey, that's great. Hashem's winning the game. He already said he's going to win.
Rabbi Rietti, I have a question. How come that the first time I heard in my life this whole thing that we're not going towards Yerid Sadoris, was from Rav Nachman.
Right.
Growing up, and I think many people, I'm sure the listeners also, grew up that even from our tzaddikim, that they constantly heard them crying about Yerid Sadoris.
Right.
So how do you gather the difference?
Excellent question. What we do is with the fact that it's a term,
right?
Yeah, it's constant, and you'll see in Sfarim as well. Right. So I think there's two things at play over here. It's true that the further away we are from Har Sinai, the more diminished is our connection to that event. What the great tzaddikim really came to do is to tell us the following: yes, I'm far from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's really true. You look at my portrait of my profile of the mistakes I've made in my life and still do. I am really far from Hashem. But comes along our great tzaddikim tells us, as far as you are from Hashem, Hashem is very close to you. He's one thought away. So there really isn't a steerer. I can be very far and yet very close. And when we become close to Hashem through simcha, which is really synonymous with Ava, and the teshuvah is that way, then no matter how far I was before, that's a huge tikkun, because now everything becomes a schus. But in terms of our own veritable gedolim telling us, Yeridas Hadaris, on all levels. I remember in yeshiva, let's say, Elul, I felt something about Elul, and it's gone. I was so diminished now. Elul is basically just another Rosh Chodesh. Oh, Elul? Oh my gosh, I forgot. I can't believe I made my vacation during Elul. How could I do that? Elul. So, and I remember the first time that happened to me years ago. I said, gosh, I have really lost the sensitivity. So yeah, you read this Hadaris even in our own generation. But the fact of the matter is, what our tzaddikim are really telling us is that the further away we are from Hashem, and the lower the madrega, the amount of effort it takes just to make the smallest improvement is so much greater than any previous generation. And that I think really ought to be the dagesh that puts the Yeridas Hadaris into a perspective, because Yeridas Hadaris means so let's be biyush, let's give up. Because anyway, you read a biography about tzaddikim, it sounds like they were born that way. So it's injecting yush in me. And there are certain publications that actually will refuse to write about our own great gedolim as more like human. There was one book, it was written by the son of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, that got put into Chayron. Because he wrote about it was called The Making of a Gadol. Now, Baruch Hashem, he managed to sell many more copies, but it went on eBay for like a couple $100, $280, something ridiculous, because they were out of print. So, but the problem people had against him was that he wrote the truth about his father. His father went through struggles, and he was still Gadol Hador. And it's not a stira. They were upset that they were demeaning. They felt he was demeaning him because there were stories about him going swimming in a swimming pool in Bnei Brak with the Chazon Ish, and they were splashing each other. So, unfortunately, they've lost the sensitivity to what Rav Nachman is saying right over here, that b'milei tishtusa, even b'milei tishtusa, I've got to do silly things to maintain simcha. Otherwise, I live a life of din and gvura, and so serious that I just get upset so easily, because I create expectations that are not realistic. So simcha is really taking us out of that. So yes, there's Yeridas Hadaris, but what's on the upside of that? Oh, the upside is huge. Like someone once asked, he complained to the Chavetz Chaim, look, previous Doros were greater than us, so how can we expect to contribute to the coming of Mashiach? So he gave a beautiful mashal. Yeah, our great Gedolim in the previous generations, they banged and banged and banged on the door to open it. But they weren't successful. It's still solid closed. However, they actually dislodged the door from its hinges, and it's just going to take one person to go like this. And the door will come crushing down. So he said that is a mashal of a warrior who's going to battle, but so many others stronger than him before him weren't successful in breaking through the city. So the guy, why just no point in trying, just turn around and give up. He says, no, you don't understand. They weakened the hinges to the point where it just takes the smallest Jew to make the smallest effort, and we can help make a huge contribution to coming of Mashiach. So on the contrary, Chazal themselves said, I think it's Gemara in Saita Daf Mem Tes, if I'm not mistaken, Yete was in Sanhedrin. Yete, let the Mashiach come, v'lo yichmaneh, but I don't want to see him. What? Rabbi Yochanan said that? Let him come, but I don't want to be in that generation. What are they afraid of? Terrorists? They weren't afraid of death. What are we afraid of? They were afraid of much more than death. They were afraid of avavas and the taivas that our children and we are exposed to on a daily basis, and just turning the eye away from a second look, or at least a third look, that is already a huge contribution to the coming of Mashiach, because we're living in a generation that the Arizal 400 years ago, I don't know what the streets of Sfas looked like then, but I don't think they had sewer stands, newsstands that we've got on the streets. Like you go in Manhattan, other areas, there's terrible pictures on the front of these magazines. They didn't have that in Sfas, and the Arizal said to his own Talmud, a Jew today can be as great as Rabbi Akiva in his generation. Rabbi Akiva died 120. He died echad with the word echad. He was the father of the Torah Sheba'al Peh. He saved the Torah Sheba'al Peh. His Talmud was Rabbi Shimon Chai, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yitzhak Bar Elai. How can you say that in 400 years ago you could be as great as the Arizal? The Arizal said you can be as great as Rabbi Akiva. Thank you. But why? Because it's not totally on the generation's high madrega. Because if a person's on a very low madrega and does something good, it's worth so much more when you consider all the forces against him. And we're living in a time when you could just open up a phone innocently and be exposed in a split second. You've got to switch to. It's crazy what we're exposed to on a daily, hourly, almost by minute basis. And for a kid today to stay from, that's extraordinary. So,
are you saying it is possible or it's not possible?
It is, and we don't.
With the challenges.
With the challenges. The Chavetz Chaim once went into an inn and he saw a Jew who was eating without a bracha. So he excused himself to the person who's with him. So I have to talk to him about saying brachas. So he said, Rebbe, let me just give you a Hagdama. This man is a clandestine Jew. He was kidnapped at the age of I think it was 7 or 8, whatever it was, and he's been 25 years in the Tsar's army. So the Chavetz Chaim said, I'm so grateful you told me. So he went over to this Jew, sat next to him, and said, I don't understand. How is it that after 25 years in the Tsar's army, you're still eating kosher? He was like in total admiration. So when you understand what the person has gone through and is still keeping Torah mitzvahs, our children today still keeping Torah mitzvahs, it's astonishing. Even if they've not been to a Gateways or Arachim seminar, they can answer all the questions. How do I know the Torah Sheba'al Peh is true? How do I know the Torah at Sinai was a real event? Even without being able to answer, but they're putting on tefillin, they're learning, they're davening, they're going to shul 3 times a day. It's astonishing. Once a day, that's astonishing. So it really goes according to the forces against us.
Technically, I mean, it may be a weird question. Why aren't we zoicha in our generation to such gedolim, to such tzaddikim like Rabbi Akiva, even like Ariya Kodesh? I mean, do we have such tzaddikim in our generation?
So,
if it's possible to reach that level,
right,
within our.
So Medrash Tanchum and a few other places does say that there are at least 36 hidden tzaddikim in every Gemara and in Sukkah.
Generation.
Memhei.
What do you call the Lamed Vav Tzaddikim?
Yeah, Lamed Vav Tzaddikim. Yeah. And every single generation. So you have to have emunah. Rav Nachman himself talks about that. You have to have emunah that just like V'yaminu b'Hashem of Moshe Avdai, that in every generation there are tzaddikim. Now the Gemara says, Chazal say they are as great as Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So now I'm assuming it doesn't mean literally, but yes, in terms of the actual proportionally for the various that we are exposed to, and the difficulties that we have to. And that's why Chazal themselves were afraid of coming into this to be part of this. They don't know if they'll be able to withstand the temptations. The temptations are so great.
That's the Rosh Hashem's interpretation to answer his question actually before on the posting Meruchik Hashem in Yirmiyah. That Meruchik, the further you go, you can easier be seen by Kadosh Baruch Hu and vice versa.
Right.
I forgot the end of the post, but you should remember.
I think you're one of them.
The Talmid of Hashem all interpreted this post. Hashem.
Thank you.
So I think that is the conclusion.
That actually answers the question: how is it that we have a Yerida Sederis and Aliyah Sederis simultaneously? Because the further we go, we're actually getting closer because we feel more distant, and this is what actually tackles our relationship with God. So, from one hand, we are further, but our relationship in truth is much closer.
Much closer. I also think that to reinforce what you're saying, I think with the closer, the Chavetz Chaim said, he died in 1933, so I don't know when he said this, but it was before 1933. He was saying technology is actually Hashem's way of making emunah much easier. So, for example, ha'ayin roya ve'oizen shemas v'chol ma'asecha b'sefer nichtavim. That would be something you have emunah. Okay, Hashem sees everything, He hears everything, and everything we do is actually written down. Actually, it doesn't mean that, but kol ma'asecha b'sefer nichtavim means our maisim, which creates the malachim, are the ones that actually write. So we're the authors of what's being recorded upstairs. So he said there was a time when you need a total emunah pshuta in such a statement. But now with cameras, he didn't even know what we've got today. You got satellite that can actually take videos and photos in real time and transmit them to this world, into thousands, hundreds of miles away, out from the atmosphere. And here you have, in real time, you'll see what's going on in another country. It's astonishing. So the fact that there's such a technology means that we should have even more emunah in all the promises Hashem has made, that there's nothing that's ever lost. No thought, everything's recorded. No word, nothing's ever. You can go to you can actually call AT&T and they can give you a recording of every single phone call, any phone call that you want to identify. They can give you a recording of it. Everything's recorded. It's astonishing. Today you can have every phone number, address, and personal information on the tip of a needle. That's how much information can be contained on the various USBs, etc. It's astonishing. So all this is in order to make it much easier for us to realize that when Chazal tell us, yes, you read the Sedoros, but mitzad sheni, and it's a huge mitzad sheni, it means that in the Tikkun HaOlam, if we're getting closer to the final stage, which is year 5,785, and we're getting closer to 6,000, because that's the cutoff date when Mashiach and Tchias HaMesim all has to be. This year's 6 days of creation corresponds to 6,000 years, and we're in 5785, so we're very, very close to the end. Therefore, if there's any unfinished business, we gotta clean up the room really fast. We've got to get it ready for Mashiach. So I think we're almost. If I didn't take a statistical analysis, but from what we hear from friends and our own personal lives, and what we read in the newspapers and everything around us, everyone's going through stuff, and it's crunch time. It's huge crunch time, because we're coming to the last tikkunim of all the Gilgulim that have to come to their final tikkun. And so it really is astonishing that in real time you can see what's going on all around the world, and it's really Hashem inviting me to either fall into the trap of atzvus, oh my gosh, anti-Semitism everywhere, everyone hates us, it's going to be another Holocaust, atzvus shalom, or Rebbeinu Shalom, this is amazing, you're bringing about a perfect yes-no question. Are you with God and His Torah, and His land, and His people, or are you against God, His people, His land, His Torah? And that's a choice I think the whole world is being given right now, and everyone's being invited to all the different events that are taking place. Whose side are they on? So I think we covered that question, hopefully. So back to our thing that's all taking place up here, everything. So there's a Gemara, I think I may have quoted this before. I tried to check on last 2 classes, but I didn't see, so somehow in my memory I thought I did. But there's a Gemara in Nadarim, Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, Ein Ani Ela B'Deya. The only poverty is in the mind. So Rashi and others, and it's most famously quoted this way, Im das kanisa, ma chasata. Im das chasata, ma kanisa. So Rashi points out, Mi sheyesh bo das, k'mi sheyesh bo hakol. She'eno nechsa klum. So the type of das we're talking about is where a person is, so to speak, glued to Hashem, where everything is happening through HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the ultimate simcha. I think there is a simcha above that, which is whatever we're doing, we are besimcha that we're giving nachas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, I'm going to a shiur. Oh, I'm learning right now, I'm davening, I'm going to sleep, so I've got koach to... So, b'chol derachecha da'ehu. In all your ways, know Hashem. Which Be'ez Hashem we're going to unpack, but the Arizal has an amazing, it's quoted by the Chidazal, and it's quoted in Ben Yehoyada on Chaf Aleph in Brachas. Ulavai shispal adam kolayam kula. Rabbi Yochanan. Ulavai, if only a person would daven all day long. So in the Yerushalmi, the same thing is quoted, and the end of that statement from Rabbi Yochanan is she'ein shum tefillah ne'avedes klal. No tefillah is ever lost. So every tefillah counts if only could daven all day long. So Ben Ish Chai says, how no one can daven all day long. So it says, no, look at the pasuk. The Gemara asks, Eza Parsha Ketana Shekol Gufei Torah Tuluim Ba. Did I share this with you? Eza pasuk, which Parsha Ketana? It's talking about a pasuk. Which pasuk, if you could identify, Shekol Torah Gufa, Kol Gufa Torah Tuluim Ba. The entire essence of Yiddishkeit, the Torah is hanging on one pasuk. So we might choose after Rech Gamoicha, Zekal Gubadara, Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Shem Echad. Those would be my first two goes to. And it comes along the Gemara, it's an end of Bracha Samach Gimel Amma Beis, Amma Bar Kapara, Eza Parsha Katana, Shakol Gufei Atar Tuluimba, Have Oimer, Bechol Derachecha De'ehu. Parak Gimel Pasuk Vav in Mishlei, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. Bechol Derachecha De'ehu. If one does that, V'hu Yiyasher, that acknowledgement does, Yiyasher Archasecha, will straighten out all the paths. So for a path to be straightened, it means it was crooked before. Oh, so any path in my marriage, relationships, it does straighten means it's straightened over here. The world's still going to keep coming at me with the marriage and the finances and the career and a new job and a second, whatever it is I'm going through. But this das is what is that das? So it comes along, Ben Ish Chai, I saw it in the Chidazal in Avodas HaKodesh, take the first letters of Bechol Derachecha De'ehu. What's it spell out? Badad. Have his spiders with whom? Take the last letters of Bechol, Lamed, Derachecha, Chaf, Da'ehu, Vav. Chafav, Gematria, Shemavaya, Lamed, Chafav. Badad Lashem. So inside the Parsha Ketana, this one pasuk, that the whole essence of Yiddishkeit hangs on, is Badad Lashem, be alone with Hashem, talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the cure-all. I'm lacking in Simcha, Rabbeinu Shalom. It's a very nice Torah, but it's theoretical to me. I've got so much going on in my world, and I can't take my mind off all the stuff that as soon as I get home, it starts again. So help me. I need you to help me. Because it's not enough to do all the good strategies, which we're going to Be'ez Hashem go through a number of different strategies, but because it's not a script. It really starts over here, and then the real here is Rabbeinu Shalom, my mind is a chelik elokam min ma'al, and therefore I can't do anything without you, because I remind myself every morning, you are the only one who gives me my mind. Ha noisen lasech bivino. Ha noisen, you're the one. It's definite article. You're the only one. You're the only one who gives the rooster, the cock-a-doodle-doo, that can tell the difference between L'havin bein yom uvein laila. How much more so you gave me a mind, but you're the noisen. So I'm asking you, help me throughout this day have a mind that I notice that you are speaking to me through my wife, my kids, the matzavim I find myself in, and when I'm shortchanged in the job and I feel like I'm doing much more than I'm getting paid for, I'm doing overtime, and it's hard for me to do it with a full heart because I feel I'm being taken advantage of and I feel abused. How do we handle that? Badad Lashem. Talk to Hashem, because that it's only for one reason He's sending it to me. Get me closer to Him. So this is I think the das that was being referred to in Chazal, im das kanita ma chasarta. If that's the das, Rashi is very strong language. Mi sheyesh bo das, k'mi sheyesh bo hakol. Hakol is not 80% good in his life. It's 99. No, 99.9. No. Hakol is 100%. He's got everything. There's nothing missing. She'ena nechsa klum. The Ran, because it's in the Darim, he says on the Divrei HaMaskal, Sheloi kana das ma kana. If he hasn't acquired das, so what has he acquired? Ma yoel kol ma shekana. What will it help? Everything else he has acquired. If he hasn't got das, he's not got the das to actually
misuse it.
Sorry?
He's going to misuse it.
He's going to misuse it. It's going to give one way or another. It's not going to be used right. So it appears that das that we're referring to is this type of das. I'll close now on Mishlei Perek Dalet Pasuk Chaf Gimel 4:23. Mikol Mishmar, from every type of guarding, Netzoli Becha. From every imaginable type of guarding, guard your mind. Why? Ki mimena toitzas chayim. Because from your mind will come out Chaim, life in this world and the next. Chaim is lives. My world in this life and the next depends on one item. What am I thinking? One year of teshuvah is already enough to get us into eternity. Okay, I might just get a front seat, back seat, or smoking section. But if we spend our whole life trying to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're learning the das of his tzaddikim. We're learning Torah. We're trying to say sorry when we made a mistake. These are huge, and we're trying to close our eyes where we shouldn't look or not give a second look. All of that is huge in the generation that we're living in. So, Mikol Mishma Nitzor Libecha. Nitzor is the lashon of a crown, but it's also, Nitzor means all around. Like I think I mentioned, a shomer is a guard who stands at the entrance to a building. But Nitzor is a lashon of surrounding the entire ear, the entire city. So your mind has to be surrounded by thoughts that are good thoughts, happy thoughts. Thoughts of Hashem's chesed in my life. That He's screaming, I love you, I love you, I love you. So that's how we guard our mind from letting marashchara thoughts or atzus thoughts or pachad or daiga, anxiety, pain, worry, fear, that doesn't belong in our mind. But how do I stop it? We guard our mind with good thoughts. So it's difficult. I'm trying to give it as a mashal because he's giving us as a mashal. It's the most important guarding you can ever have. So yeah, worry about the diamond ring, but this is much more. What's over here, that's what's going to decide my entire future and my life while I'm here. Any questions, comments?
So apparently, being that we established that the kina is actually some sort of an anxious feeling.
Yes.
And kas is some sort of an anxious feeling.
Yes.
This is actually what the core is.
Yes.
And it's only the response. And so, how does a person? What's the perfect remedy for all of you mentioned?
Yes.
These
So, it's actually in my notes, and I did mean to get to it today, and I apologize because there's really a master key, and the reason why there's a master key that fits every lock. So every lock could be different, and each one has its own key. But there is such a thing as a master key that actually fits every single one of those locks. So your question is, no, there's all sorts of midas ros. There's sinna, hatred. There's kina, jealousy. There's kas, there's anger. There's netira, resentment, bearing a grudge. As nikama, desire to take revenge. There's so many midas ros out there. Is there one master key that will help me to get beyond all of those? And the answer is a resounding yes. What is that master key? So actually there's more than one, but the starting point of that master key is recognizing that every single one of those averas, sinna, kina, tachut, competition, jealousy, chemda, desire to get other people's possession, even figuring out ways to get that person's possessions, or his wife has the shalom. That's the lashon of the Seres HaDibros. Lo tachmod eishes re'echa, and chemda means you're actually planning ways to get it. So there's a tzad hashav, there's a common denominator between all of those items, and that is I'm complaining. Jealousy is a complaint. I don't have what I think I ought to. Someone else has better than me. Why don't you give me a better brain? I would be able to learn if I had a better brain. And there's so many things I can. Kas, anger is a complaint. Why isn't this person doing what I want them to do, or having the mindset that I want them to have, or behaving the way I want them to? Whether it's my child, my spouse, makes no difference who. Whoever I'm angry against is actually a complaint. And that's why if you travel through the Torah, and you'll see that the worst ramifications, the worst responses to our averas were not even for avodah zarah. The chita egel, Moshe Rabbeinu managed to secure mechila for, but the meraglim, that was bad news. That was the worst. 10 tongues complaining about Eretz Yisrael. 10 tongues said lashon hara. Lashon hara is a complaint. I'm complaining about that person's behavior, what they said. Every single midah is a complaint. So if I know that it's a complaint, then I know that the master key, the remedy for that, is the opposite of complaining. And that's why you see Hashem actually brought about the worst consequences because of the meraglim The Chet HaEgel ended us being 40 years in the Midbar. And Hashem said, okay, you cried tears b'chinam, I'm going to give you reasons to cry. And now, by Shushan, by Sheni, and we're still in Galus. Every Tisha B'Av is a reminder that we still got Sinas Chinam from the second Bay Shushan, so by Sheni, the cause of the Bay Sheni being destroyed. So all of that comes down to the same problem. I've been complaining to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And so Hashem says, I want you to notice that when Adam Rishon ate from the tree, I didn't come down on him right away. First thing I did was, Ayeka, where are you? I was inviting him to say sorry. He didn't say one word, Chatati. If he said that one word, I would have forgiven him. That's the Medrash Haggadah on that pasuk. Instead, he said, Ha'isha, which at first glance means, oh, he's blaming his wife. Ashenatata imadi, that you gifted to stand by me. Whoa. Who's he complaining about? Who was Adam complaining about? Now, I couldn't say this, but Chazal say, I think it's Daf Gimel, or maybe Daf Hey, I forget now, in Avodah Zarah, that Mekan, from here we learned that Adam Rishon was a koifer toiv. He was a koifer. Koifer means he denied the toiv, the good. Rashi's quoting the Gemara, yeah. The Gemara is like more of a primary source, but you're right. Rashi brings out immediately that this was the problem. He's been koifer toiv. For that, he got thrown out of Gan Eden. So it wasn't eating from the tree. In fact, the first command in the Torah was one pasuk before Mikol Eitz Hagan, Oichel Toichel, from every tree in the garden, enjoy. There were probably thousands. I don't remember that, but there's a sefer I saw that actually gave a number of how many trees in Gan Eden. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of trees, and you could eat the fruit with the peel, with the twig, with the leaves. Everything had a different. It was extraordinary. Even the aroma of the fruit had healing powers. So all that we lost, and Hashem was saying, I want you to enjoy. By the way, in the middle of the gun, there's this one tree, Eitz Hadas Toiv V'Ra, because if you don't eat this, everything's good. But the minute you eat this, you're going to be under the illusion that there's actually bad in this world. Because you went against one thing I told you not to. So it comes along, Hashem is telling me, please enjoy life. So Hashem is saying the remedy to complaining is gratitude. Why did I give you all these trees? Because by having so many different colors and flavors and textures inside these fruits and delicious aromas, you're going to have more reason to praise me and thank me, and you might fall into the realization, why do I give you so much pleasure in this world? Because I love you so much.
So what you're trying to say is that what would have been the response of Klal Yisrael, and at what point would they have responded to actually prevent the Chet HaMeraglim of that suffering of Chet HaMeraglim all these years?
So there's a pasuk, V'zacharta et kol haderech asher hotziach Hashem Elokecha ze 40 shana. Please remember all the years, these 40 years that I took you through the desert, and remember all that I did for you. Your clothes never got worn out and out. You never outgrew them. Your sandals grew with you. You never got any corns on your feet. I took care of you with the Anania covered. Pay attention to the chesed that I've done for you. And then when the Meraglim came back, said, look, so it's a really interesting land. I mean, let me show you the fruits. These are the fruits. This is great over here. And guess how big the giants are? They're huge. And with all the intimidation that the Meraglim were trying to impress upon us, if Klal Yisrael responded, Hashem Yitbarach Tamid Ohevati, there's no way that Hashem, with all the love He's done in taking us out of Mitzrayim, Mibeis Avadim, and splitting the sea, and taking care of us all this time, there's no way that He's not going to bring us to a land which is Zvat Chalav Dvash, that it's pouring, gushing with date syrup and goat's milk. That's what it's really referring to, because that's much more healthy. So there's no way Hashem would have done this to hurt us. So we're not going to believe your 10 tongues. But these 10 tongues were believed. The Lashon Hara worked, unfortunately, not on the women, but on the men it did. And we lost millions of men, 600,000 men in the 40-year period, and all millions of almanas, hundreds of thousands of almanas and yisoimim, all because of 10 tongues. And that was Lashon Hara, but that's a complaint.
When were they supposed to shut them down?
Sorry?
At what point were they supposed to shut them down?
When Yeshua and Kalev made their attempts to point out, look at all the things that Ben Amram, they first called Ben Amram to get their attention. Oh good, he's good. He's speaking not very respectfully about Ben Amram, so he's on our side and he agrees with the Meraglim. And then once he got their attention, that's when he tried to say, this is not the only thing Ben Amram's done for us. And then bring out, how can you possibly forget the chesed? So it's Hesed. That
was the point that they actually had an opportunity.
Opportunity.
And they didn't exercise on the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all taking place over here. I can never pay enough attention to Hashem's kindness to me. David HaMelech was chosen because he spent 28 years. He was 29 when he was crowned Melech. He spent a year and a half being chased by Shaul Melech. So even after he got the news, he was still suffering terribly, and he kept coming back to his default. Hodu Hashem. How do you say thank you to Hashem with such a difficult life? Kitov, because you're good. How do you say that? Because when I weigh up all the suffering and then I say, look, if I'm going to tell you what's bad, I have to follow my own logic and tell you what's good. But once I tell you what's good, guess what happened to the scales? It was unlimited. I couldn't stop. So that is a discipline. That is a discipline to pay attention to the good in my life, the good in my life, the good in my health, in my wealth, the good in my career, the good in all the kindnesses Hashem has done for me. And eventually it gets to a point where a person realizes, I'm owed nothing. In the words of the Ramchal, even a person's intelligence is Eino Ela Chesed Kel Alav. His intelligence. Yeah, but listen, I went to school, I took yeshiva seriously, I tried to learn, I finished these Sfarim, these Masechtas, so I did. No. Everything that a person has is Chesed Kel Alav. It's pure Chesed. Chesed is not owed. It's Chasidus. It's going beyond.
So despite the fact that Kalev was...
I don't want to hold anyone hostage here. It's
Kalev and Yeshua were minority towards the 10 Meraglim.
Yes.
Klal Yisrael would have supposed to understand the chesed of the Eibishter
so strong
that it's considered to be an equal bechira that they had, and they actually failed on the bechira. Even though they should have had this message so clear that they didn't act on it at the point of Vayas Kalev. That was the sin. Nice.
Baruch Tiyeh. Any other comments, questions, criticism?
Beautiful.
Baruch Tiyeh.
Thank you
Baruch
so much.
Tiyeh.
Thank you.
We got off the text, but it was relevant to the context. So